First of all, the movie begins with Nathan and Jerry having a conversation about nostalgia. Are you a nostalgic person?
Yeah, I can be. The older I get, the more nostalgic I become, for sure. Yeah, I can be nostalgic for Scotland and for my childhood and my youth there. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Let's talk about Mary. At the beginning, she gets asked the question in school, "What is life?" How would you answer the question?
I don't know. I don't know how I would answer that question. I think the Swedes slightly confused that would be a question that they ask at school of a child. You know. I don't know how I would know that the answer to that question is probably too long and deep for a 5-minute interview. I think probably.
And Mary did it okay, I think.
She did it quite well. Yeah, yeah.
So Dawn and Seymour are kind of dealing with the conception that other people have of them, that they see still New Jersey and the sports hero. And what do you think how that is that some people seem to see something that you are actually not anymore for years?
Well, I think in the book, Philip Roth's exploring that. It's quite interesting, the idea that Swede has been a hero of sorts in his late teens, 17, 18, 16, 17, 18. He was somebody who was sort of adulated by his peers at school, and he became the sports star in his youth, and then went off to the Marines. And I think he's sort of exploring the idea of fame within the Swede's character, and what effect that's had on him, and how it seems to be that to be in that position of being adulated by everybody, it sort of stunted him in some respect. Perhaps he's exploring that idea. And then with Dawn being, again, in the same sort of respect, being adulated or possibly objectified, I guess, as a beauty queen, and as a woman, and her intellect being sort of reduced to, in other people's eyes, somebody who is just beautiful and who isn't given any other respect in terms of intelligence or anything like that. And so these are two things that maybe the Swede and Dawn have to overcome, and something that they're sort of pigeonholed by. So Roth's exploring this idea of, I mean, it's so complicated, the novel, and there are many, many things being explored there, but the idea of what effect does that have on Mary and her life, and it is the fact that they are these people, and with this marriage, which might be seen to be sort of a perfect but slightly shallow marriage, a responsible factor in what she ends up becoming and doing in her life. And I think ultimately he's saying, no, it's not. I think Roth is saying he's exploring lots of ideas and why people might blame themselves for what happens, and looking for reasoning on what happens. But I think ultimately he's saying that life is chaos, and that our children end up doing what our children do, regardless of who we are, perhaps.
So the parents are trying to stop Mary from seeing something horrible in the news.
Yeah.
Do you think that the news sometimes are too explicit, or do you believe it's sometimes important to show the reality as it is?
Yes, I think it can be important to be able to see. It's too easy for us to to put blinkers on and to ignore some of the terrible things that happen in the world. So I think the news and news photographers, and I have a good friend who's Lindsay Adario, who's a war photographer, and I believe in her work, although some might not. The idea of being in war zones and photographing horrific things, some people have an issue with, but I think it's quite important because these photographs can touch us as human beings and make us want to do something about what's happening there. Otherwise, it's too easy for us just to ignore it. Famine and the displaced people in the world at the moment. You know how many people are forced from their homes in the Middle East and from Syria, and it would be quite easy for us to ignore that if it weren't for shocking imagery of families and people on the move and children who have got no homes. I think there's a sort of social responsibility to show that.
Do you believe that it would have had a different effect on her if she would have only heard about that man, or
no?
Instead of seeing it? I
don't think so. I think that Philip Roth's exploring he explores two memories that the Swede has that he thinks might be responsible for Mary having become the way she did and becoming radicalized. But I also think he's exploring the Swede's guilt about those things, but I don't think he's suggesting that they are responsible for her radicalization. I don't think so.